morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Lolo Stone. I'm with Color Me Human. I want to start by naming why we're gathered. Thank you. I want to start by naming why we're gathered, honestly and without softening it. We're not here because of a single incident. We are here because violence, hate, and intimidation have shown up repeatedly in our community, and they have targeted people because of who they are, their race, their gender, their sexuality, their bodies, their existence. That includes a recent violent attack against a young Black man. It also includes attacks, threats, and harassment against LGBTQ+ community members. It includes people being threatened online, harassed at work, and in some cases making the painful decision to leave Nevada County because they no longer feel safe here. This is not rumor, this is lived experience. We're not here to rank harm or decide which violence matters most. Targeted violence is targeted violence. And when we treat these incidents as isolated instead of connected, we fail the people who are most at risk. I need to say this clearly: when people are being pushed out of their jobs, their online spaces, or their homes because of hate, racism, or fear, that is a community safety issue, full stop. For many people in this room, especially Black, Brown, LGBTQ+, immigrant, and other community members, this moment is not shocking, it's very familiar. What is harmful is when communities refuse to name it or ask people to be quieter, more patient, or less honest about what they're experiencing. Today is about refusing that. This gathering is called a community update for a reason. It's not a town hall, as we've had in previous months. It's not a debate, and it's not an investigation. It's a space to get grounded in facts, hear directly from those responsible for public safety, connect to community leadership and resources, and stay connected rather than isolated. Community safety is not built by any one institution alone. It's built through coordination, accountability, and trust. And trust only grows when harm is named clearly and people show up together. That's why Color Me Human is hosting this update alongside the Mayor of Grass Valley, Hilary Hodge, and Nevada City Councilmember Daniela Fernandez. Not for optics, not to check a box, but because collaboration is how communities interrupt patterns of harm instead of reacting one incident at a time. Organizing isn't about yelling the loudest. Organizing is about staying in the room. Organizing is about refusing misinformation. Organizing is about choosing each other over fear. My hope today is simple: that you leave more informed, more connected, and less alone. We're going to start with a law enforcement update so the community can hear clearly about coordination, safety, and how to report concerns. So this next section is about information and reassurance. It's not about blame, it's not about speculation or debate. I'll be facilitating the conversation to keep us focused on what can be shared publicly and what people most need to know right now. I want to thank our law enforcement partners and the District Attorney's Office for being here and for showing up in this space. And I would love to welcome them to the stage at this time. So we have Nevada County Sheriff Shannan Moon, Grass Valley Police Chief Alex Gammelgard, Nevada City Police Chief Dan Foss, and Nevada County District Attorney Jesse Wilson. So please welcome to the stage. Hi, everybody. How is everyone?
Good.
Test, test. Your mics are on.
Red.
Yeah? Good.
Good morning.
Awesome. And Shannan, can you share? So I'm going to ask a few guiding questions to help keep this clear and accessible. And then we will have time for questions following a couple other items on the agenda today. But I just wanted to open it up, welcome you all to the stage, and thank you for being here once again. This is a really important conversation. So the first question that I want to start with is how are agencies coordinating with one another in response to recent violent incidents? And you can take it one at a time, whoever wants to start. Shannan?
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation and the ability to speak with the members of our community. Coordination, collaboration is key in law enforcement. Fortunately, we have a lot of great relationships that take time, right? We build on them from the times when we don't have major incidences so that we know each other. And I think that's a huge priority for me personally, working with the gentlemen in our police departments, Alex Gammelgard, Dan Foss, and we also have the town of Truckee, Danny Renfro up in Truckee, who's also from the Grass Valley area. But meetings, regular meetings with the chiefs and I, but also down to the level of the detectives, so that we can look at similar crime to see if we do have connections. I think the biggest part is the day-to-day officers and deputies on the street really do work well together, and I'm proud of that. This is the only agency I've worked with, so I don't have the comparison that some people will talk about of other agencies and other communities. But in this community, I've always felt very proud of the fact that we do have great working relationships, not only with the police departments, but also with the fire departments.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. Thanks for coming out on this rainy morning. Alex Gammelgard, Police Chief for Grass Valley. And just to add on to a little bit of what Shannan had to say there, a lot of the work is done through these informal and formal relationships, and being able to pick up the phone to one another when something happens is key. I think that's the foundational layer, and then the operational piece is things like data systems, detective relationships, and case management, the analysts that we have working in our agencies, and just recently on some of the things that we're talking about here this morning, an analyst in the sheriff's office spent a significant amount of time linking facts and circumstances around some of these incidents to try to find the correlations and also be able to discount them where appropriate. So I think it's the relational side, and then it's the operational side that's really key to us solving cases and delivering services in our community.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Jesse Wilson, the DA, and I would, of course, echo a lot of these sentiments by Sheriff Moon, Chief Gammelgard. You know, this collaboration, this coordination amongst agencies, it doesn't have one particular look, right? It can happen in various types of ways. It can happen from the DA's perspective. We get all the referrals, so we can see if there's a trend going on across jurisdictions. So we can reach out to our law enforcement agencies if we see something that we're trying to track and get a handle on a regional overall level. But it also happens, and this is not uncommon for it to proactively happen with a member of Grass Valley Police Department or a particular detective unit there coming forward and saying, hey, we have a problem in this area of the community. Can we work together in order to try to, get some terms on this individual, do something proactively to try to address the concern that is either coming directly from law enforcement or coming from the community via law enforcement. And certainly in Nevada City, the Sheriff's Department are both great partners in that respect. And to put a finer point on Sheriff's Moon comment about the coordination in this community, we go to these trainings, we go to these statewide trainings, and it's surprising in some respects, but also refreshing to hear that we don't have these same barriers that other communities have, and these people going in their own sound boxes and not working together. That's not the case in Nevada County. So The coordination takes place in many different ways, and certainly, especially as it relates to some of the incidents that brings everyone together today, there's been multiple meetings amongst departments in order to try to address the concerns that are coming directly from the community.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Dan Foss with Nevada City PD. So I think probably the biggest strength we have is we keep saying that word community. And what I have noticed coming up here is Nevada County treats itself like one community. It doesn't treat itself like several separate entities, which is rare, and it's not typical from where I was at before. I've seen where people, especially cities, they basically are their own little city and they don't cooperate real well with other cities or the county. And when something happens in one city, that's over there. There's a joke all the time of don't bring it over here. We don't have that here. And I think that's a huge strength. If something happens in any of our jurisdictions, the sheriff's great at it all the time. I wake up to a text, say thank you for all your guys' assistance. We treat it not as where did this happen, whose issue is it? It's all of our issue for the county, and we treat it that way. And every time we do have one of these issues, we work together very closely on, hey, how do we solve this? We know that people that are doing these things, criminals don't care if it's Grass Valley or Nevada City or the county. They're going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to try to prevent them and make sure they're not in our community, which is a whole. The other thing I think that's really important for what we're saying here is, you probably see it, is we're friends. We all get along up here. And a big part of friendship that I think is really important is you can disagree. And I think you learn more and build more from disagreements than you do from agreeing. So if you're comfortable in saying, hey, I think what we're doing here is wrong, that's how things get built and get better, right? And we discuss it and talk it through. So having those strengths up here too is very beneficial. And again, as the sheriff said, that trickles down. Our officers see it. They interact well with each other. They work great together. And that's all a real big strength.
Thank you all. Because we're gathered here because of recent attacks, but there is a history of violence and hate and racism in this county. Can you talk about what information is appropriate to share publicly right now and what are the limits, just from a process perspective from each of your agencies, and just what, from your perspective now in this moment with the recent attacks, what the community should hear and would probably like to hear from all of you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start.
Thank you.
Several of the incidences did occur in the jurisdiction of the county. So when we talk about who's in charge of whatever incident, it's really literally where the incident occurred, like the ground in which it occurred on. And sometimes that is difficult to determine because it's much easier today when we can look at a phone or look at a GPS and know exactly where we are. But not too long ago, it was kind of, you just had to know where the county line was or the city jurisdiction was. So again, with that relationship of when we respond, it doesn't matter where it happens, right? We have a lot of mutual aid response to incidences, but then it determines on where it is as who's responsible in the investigation of that area. Anything in the county jurisdiction, the unincorporated area of Nevada County, which means you're not in the city limits, is the jurisdiction of the sheriff's office. Our incidences are under investigation, and it would not be prudent for me to comment on where we are with them, other than we have detectives assigned. They're continuing to look at some of the physical evidence. Anytime we have a video, which is fantastic, everybody likes to video incidences today. Once we get our hands on that, being able to look at it, really dig down and trying to identify every single person in a very chaotic circumstance sometimes, and then getting statements from all those folks is typically what we're doing. And then you can look at using technology to figure out where people are and all those different things. That takes some time with search warrants that our teams are getting better and better at every single day. At the sheriff's office, over 900 square miles, right? I have 70 deputies. That's including me. So there's a lot of geographical area for those deputy sheriffs. Not all of those deputy sheriffs are out on patrol. There's a small number of those folks that are literally out on patrol. I'm jurisdictionally in charge of providing security at a courthouse, so I have deputy sheriffs working in that realm. and then again, all the ways up from Truckee down to Grass Valley. So spread thin, but making sure that those response times when incidences do occur, I would say that that's the thing that we work on with our staff. But as it stands today, we have conversations with our district attorney on the people that we're looking at, the targeted people that we're looking at for filing criminal cases, and looking to see how much more evidence we need, because we don't want to send a case that doesn't have enough evidence. We want to make sure that there are solid investigations. So my role is making sure I have the right people that I hire, the right people that I promote to being in charge of those people that are out there working in law enforcement, and then I provide them with the resources that we can through the wonderful support that I have from the CEO and the Board of Supervisors in Nevada County. Without being able to specifically say where those cases are, meeting with victims and making sure that we're keeping them apprised of where we're at, I think is the important thing right now before we actually file charges.
Thank you.
So to the point about jurisdiction, each of us, with the exception of Dan up here, has, I guess that would make you and me left, have some cases that seem to have some nexus and, or do, but I don't want to make conclusionary statements. That would be one thing that we want to be careful of, because these incidences are either under investigation or still within, they're unadjudicated, meaning that they have not yet had a determination in court. It's important that we don't make conclusionary statements about things, because the process and the judicial system is what will make that final conclusionary point. In the case of Grass Valley cases, two of which that I'm speaking of, both of them have resulted in arrests of people who are responsible for criminal acts. And I just want to point out that sometimes the words we use are really important, and it's important for people to be educated on them. Sometimes we'll words like so-and-so was charged or arrested, words like probable cause, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are all real technical terms for us, and they mean different things, and they can mean different things in the context in which they're used. So if I say someone has been charged, just within my police department talking to officers, we might mean that in the sense that they've been arrested and booked into jail, and we wrote some charges on the booking sheet. That means something different than if Jesse's office says someone has been charged. When someone's been charged with a crime, his office is the person, is the entity that makes the charging decision and actually files charges against an individual. We make arrests based upon probable cause. In order for Jesse's office, and he can talk more about this, to file a case, to file charges against an individual, they need to believe that they can gain a conviction with proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are hugely different thresholds to achieve. So just back to our cases, we've made arrests, we've booked people into jail. In some of those instances, Jesse's office has filed charges. There's been dates set. There's in a preliminary hearing is the next point in the judicial process where a judge has to determine whether or not probable cause exists to continue to hold the person responsible to answer for the charges. And that's where we're at. So can't really get into the details specifically about that. Some of that is public record and can be looked up on the Nevada County Court's webpage. And other pieces are not available for me to speak about. And that's because these cases are also still under investigation. If we get what's called either inculpatory or exculpatory evidence that either tends to prove that someone is guilty or tends to show that maybe there's extenuating circumstances or something that would show that they're not guilty of a crime, we have a responsibility and a duty to disclose that all the way through the system. And so at any given time, somebody comes forward and tells us something, we will be passing that information along to the district attorney's office.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to continue that, we have cases that have been referred over or that are actively under investigation, and we're working with our law enforcement partners some of the cases have been sent over, have been charged as serious felonies, and are working their way through the system. Our job, at least in part from the DA's office perspective, is to make sure that the court is aware of, no matter what jurisdiction it took place in, if we have an individual coming in before the court, that the court has the full story of the particular danger that this individual may pose to the community. And of course, part of that analysis is going to be, hey, we got these pending cases here, and that's where it all comes together in the court during cases that have actually been charged. And to that, it's very hard to speak in general vague terms about what cases and where they are, because we're just talking about not even specific cases or anything. So that can be very difficult. What I was telling when we were talking beforehand with Mayor Hodge is, if there's a takeaway from this thing, if there's specific information that you want to request and you have specifics about it, you can contact our office, you can contact various law enforcement offices, and there is a lot of information that is public knowledge that's in the courts. We file the complaints that we file are public documents, and we can give you that direct answer to a direct question and alleviate some of the confusion as it relates to specific cases. So don't hesitate to reach out to the offices if you have specific questions about specific cases. We're here to serve you. We're here to give as much information on those as possible.
Yeah, so because I have to go last every time, a lot of what they already said is...
We'll start with you first next.
It's okay. I think one of the things that's the most frustrating for everybody sitting in this room is when you do hear repeatedly, hey, we can't discuss that, there's a lot of things that we can't talk about that. And I think it's so important to understand why that is sometimes our response. We all are part of the judicial system, and a very key, important aspect of that is you are innocent until proven guilty. And when there is so much that is, I have been, as an investigator, so many times wrong, where I am convinced this is exactly what happened, I know what happened, nobody could tell me otherwise, and then a week later I'm like, man, I really missed the mark on that one. And that happens all the time. And as investigators, as law enforcement, as the DA's office especially, it's so important that we keep that vital part of our system in place where everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And we do have to investigate it from all angles. And it all is public record eventually. It all does have to be shown to the public. What I think is even more important, I can't really remember the question, but I think the question was, what are we doing? I think what's super important for everybody here to know is that we are aware of it, that we see it just like everybody in this room sees it. We see the fear just like everybody in this room sees the fear, right? So even if there's different aspects that we can't talk about, or even if there's things of this that we see a lot of chatter on social media like everybody else does, that some of it is unwarranted, some of it is warranted, but what is the biggest fear for me, honestly, is not the ones that we see, but it's the people that we don't, if that makes sense. So it's not illegal to be a bigot. We see them, and I know who they are in our community, not all of them, but the ones that are out there, I have no problem with them because I can monitor them. I know where they live, I know what they do, I can make their life somewhat miserable. It's legal for them to express their opinion, but that is not a fear I have because I know who they are, I know where they are. And we know where our officers can respond and how we can keep our community safe. It is the ones that are a little more silent that we don't see, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, I think I'm answering the question on this part. Because of the nature of where we're at in society, people feel like they can say whatever they want. And I almost feel like sometimes that's a good thing because now we know who they are, right? And it allows us to focus our attention on those individuals.
Thank you. I do think it's really important for the community to hear sort of your process and talking about the language used and how that differentiates between departments. That's always very helpful. It's always helpful to hear directly from you to say you can contact us anytime if you have specific questions about things. So I just want to reiterate that to the audience and to the community that this is why we're here, is to build that collaboration, to build that trust and to share with the community that these are folks that are asking to be contacted, right? So if you have questions and you have concerns, to please reach out. And I want to just keep reiterating that. But I want to move on to the next, which is and I'm going to start with you, Dan. You did. What steps are currently being taken to protect community safety in these escalated violence and things that are happening across the country, not just in this community? Are there things that you have changed? Are there new things you're doing? Are there things that you're seeing to respond to? Just to address that general, what steps are you currently being taken?
So, I think to answer that, I guess if I was sitting here and saying, well, this is the steps I'm taking currently, then I would say I'd already failed. These are steps that as law enforcement that we need to be taken long time ago. When I first got here 3.5 years ago, these were steps that I started taking then to make sure that we have things in place to protect our community as much as possible. Now, we do have to acknowledge that crime's going to occur. So, like, as the sheriff mentioned, many times in my police force, there's one officer out there protecting the entire community. We try to have 2 or 3 at any given time, but many times there's one cop that's protecting the entire community. So we know that we're not going to be able to be in all places at all times. We try to use modern technology to assist with that. We've done a lot of advancements in that. But I would say perhaps the greatest tool we have to make sure that we're serving our community best is who we're hiring, who we're recruiting, and the training we're sending them to. And on top of that, with the interactions with our community, with the communication directly to our community, right? If you have an isolated police force, people don't feel, we can't fight anything unless somebody tells us about it, right? If I don't know it's there, and if I don't know it's occurring, if that evil stays in the dark, we can't fight it. If you bring it to the light, then we can figure out how to solve these things. And there's no better way to, we all know that there was times in our history across the nation where there was so many things that wasn't brought to law enforcement because there probably wasn't going to be a lot of things that would occur even if you brought it up. I can definitively say that is not the case. That is not the case here. And if you bring it to us, and I don't care how you bring it to us, as Jesse said, you could send an anonymous email and say, hey, this is occurring. I'm uncomfortable talking about it. This is how we could communicate. Eventually, I'm going to have to talk to you. But however you want to reach out, we are going to respond. We're going to look into it. And we're going to do our best to make sure that our community is safe at all times. But it doesn't start with right now. It started a long time ago. And right now, I could say that I'm very proud of law enforcement across Nevada County that I think does an excellent job. And it's one of the best agencies I've ever worked with and for that is doing a great job. That's not to say that there's room for growth now, and there was room for growth before. But I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
And I can speak obviously for the DA's office on what we do in order to take steps to try to ensure public safety. That's our mission statement. It's a continuing effort on our part, and it's probably similar to these other departments too, right? We have a finite amount of resources, and we try to work with the resources we have as best we can in order to try to ensure public safety and do it through ethical prosecution. So for the DA's office, we try to utilize these resources, and we're constantly scrambling to try to get more resources. So what does that look like for us? For us, it looks like internally, we have different departments where we have specialized prosecutors with domestic violence, right? That's a very difficult area. It is something that poses domestic violence as a crime, poses a significant danger to the community for all the obvious reasons. And so we try to work to build up within our office the training on that, and then also secure grant funding to add resources to have a substantial domestic violence department within our agency. And that's the same thing for sexually violent assailants, for all these different departments. We're constantly doing that through training and trying to gather more resources in order to protect the community and do what we signed up to do more effectively and better. So that is what we do in just our day-to-day operations. And then also we work collaborative, and I can speak a little bit to these departments in public outreach. If there's a seminar to speak at a high school, or something to speak about on drugs, we'll be in the high schools. We have Project Lead from the DA's office, and all these people up here have been participants in graduating hundreds of fifth graders from Project Lead over the last few years, and that's a 10-week program that we're in our public schools proactively reaching out to try to to help support our community, to try to provide good examples for law enforcement, to try to help the youth in making the decisions as they go to middle school and high school. So that's something that we work with collaboratively with law enforcement. So I think it's a multifaceted approach on how we try to impact this community in a positive way on a daily basis.
Thank you.
So the fact that we're here, meaning all of us together, not just us up here, but that we're all here together, I think that's the most impactful thing that I've seen change over the last, in March will be 10 years that I've been the police chief in Grass Valley. And when I started 10 years ago, the relationships weren't there. And that's not on me. That's just how our community has evolved. The fact that we're more willing to talk about issues, come together, and then the willingness of the leaders in our community, both in law enforcement and elsewhere, to come together and have those discussions. We hear a lot about community policing as a thing, and over the last few years, I've really wanted to change that to a concept of relational policing. When you have a relationship with your community, meaningful things happen, and you can make changes and focus on the issues that are of concern. Community policing is more like, you can call it that and get the star and say you're a community policing organization, great. But unless you're actually taking the time to build the relationships, understand the issues, work collaboratively together, then you aren't really understanding the things that you need to be impactful about in the community. So that's what I would say is like the biggest thing that we're doing. And again, that we're doing, meaning the community as a whole. So I think that's really changed things. And we have formal things in place, whether it's our ILA group or the JEDI group within the elected officials that we're talking about specifically, or whether it's just the one-off conversations and relationships that we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been the sheriff for 7 years. This is year 35 in law enforcement in Nevada County for me. Prior to that, my dad did 29 years. So growing up in this community and seeing kind of how we've progressed is pretty wonderful. Not to say that we don't have more work to do, and that's the constant. If we say we've arrived, we're going to get run over. So constantly looking at ways to improve, recognizing that we're not perfect, I think is a huge thing for all of us, especially at our levels. The two biggest things that I do for our agency is I determine who I hire and I determine who I promote. Who I hire has to be the right person that understands what it is to be a law enforcement officer in Nevada County. And I won't say it's a rural county. I won't say it's a small county. This is Nevada County. This is our home. This is where we choose to live. And making sure that the people that I promote, that are in charge, that are supervising, all those folks that are out there, incredibly difficult job, making sure that I promote the right person. And then making sure that we supervise the supervisors. I was fortunate a couple years ago to be selected and appointed on the governor's peace officer standards and training for all of California. So we determine who qualifies to be a law enforcement officer and then what minimum standards of training they have to have throughout the entire state. And the biggest change in California through legislation several years ago was what we called SB2, where we can actually decertify peace officers that have serious misconduct so that they can't just go to the next agency and the next agency. So I get to sit on those hearings and really see the negative side of what having the wrong person in law enforcement can do for a community, and making those decisions to decertify those officers so that they can't work in somebody else's community. It's been an eye-opener for me, and every time I finish one of those hearings, I say, thank God I'm in Nevada County. Thank God my parents chose this place to live in. And the reality of that is, again, we're constantly looking at ways to improve, and we're constantly looking at, did we do enough on this case or that case? How can we provide more training for our staff so that they can respond to those very difficult calls for service for our community members, so that you feel like you can trust them when they show up and that you want to talk with them so that we can get the evidence that we need to further criminal cases that go to Jesse's office. I think that's the biggest thing that we do here in Nevada County.
Thank you. Moving into if community members are experiencing harassment, threats, violence, attacks, things like that, concerning behavior online. You mentioned social media. If people are being harassed and threatened online or at work, in public, what information is most helpful to you when folks are reporting that? If I see this happening in public, it's not happening to me, but I know about it and I hear about it and I want to reach out to you, what information is most helpful in reporting specific things that happen, or for community members at large to say, I witnessed this and I need you to know?
There's a lot of questions there.
I know.
Okay, so the first
This morning.
that we all can kind of relate to, I'll leave the first one out. Where, what, when, why. And of course, who, if you have it, is helpful, but I also understand sometimes people may want to remain anonymous about that. But trends, patterns, locations, things like that are really important. You mentioned if we witness something, whether it's online or in person. I'm sure many of us in this room have heard these terms, but I'm just going to throw them out there since I'm the term guy today, I guess. If we're talking about hate-related speech or actions, is really broken down into two things that are important to recognize: a hate incident versus a hate crime. When something has crossed the line into a hate crime, that means that a criminal action has occurred. We've also heard a lot about charging of a hate crime. So there isn't a crime that is a hate crime. Any crime can be a hate crime. It has to be, the motivation to commit that crime has to be based upon a bias of a number of things. Some of the things that we hear most likely, race, religion, sexual orientation, other protected class things. For a long time, going back to the beginning of my career, and this is where things have changed, and I think they've changed for the better. It wasn't uncommon to go to something where somebody called the police, and it was a hate incident that was determined to have occurred, and there wasn't much more that the police did beyond say, that's not a crime, I'm sorry, and move on to the next call. Today, there's much more robust systems in place to be able to provide somebody with referrals, and I hope there becomes more. But just to clarify again, so if it's a hate crime, absolutely, the police, the sheriff's office are taking a report and looking to find the perpetrator for criminal action. If it's a hate incident, that could be somebody exercising their First Amendment right, as horrific of speech as it might be. But we still want to know about hate incidences because they tend to create trends, identify people, locations, things like that. So that'd be the first thing we ask, is that those things are reported. So how do you report them? There's a number of ways. I'll start local and move broader. We have calling our dispatch. We have a regional dispatch center. If you call the 265-7880 phone number, that's a non-emergency line. It will get to the right agency based on jurisdiction. You can call 911 if you can't remember that number. The same person answers the phone. Just maybe with a little more urgency. The person who called the other number might get put on hold. You can send something into any one of our agencies. If you know your jurisdiction, great, pick that agency. If you don't, send it to us and we'll forward it along. All of us have generalized email addresses. I know ours at our police department is comments@gvpd.net. That will get to the right people. There is a number of organizations in our community. Many of you in this room are either part of or aware of those organizations. You can work through somebody that you feel comfortable with there if you want help reporting. And then another important one that we've been talking about a lot in Nevada County recently is a statewide initiative, California versus Hate. You can look it up online. There's online reporting, there's a phone number reporting, and they are actually connecting the callers with individuals and organizations that can help provide resources in the longer term. And we're still kind of exploring how that's working here, but we're hoping that that will provide us better trend lines over time. And I'll stop there because I could keep talking about reporting and things like that, but those are just some of the things that you can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, we've all heard the saying that probably the best ally of evil is silence. And when people remain silent and do nothing, then bad things can happen, and bad things do happen. I think, thankfully, in our community, we don't have a problem with that. People are very vocal here. They have no problem standing up and saying what they see. It's, as Alex said, one of the things that always frustrates me that I hate to hear is people will see me somewhere and they'll talk to me and they say, hey, I saw this or I witnessed this, but I didn't call it in because I didn't want to bother anybody. And it's like, no, you're not bothering anybody. That's what we do. We have even sometimes if you call in and you feel like, well, I don't know where that went or what happened with it, almost everything is documented all the time. We have an excellent dispatch center. I'll give a recent example of this, how this was just a great case. Somebody was driving to work and they witnessed a individual stop and talk to a girl on the side of the road. That's it. She looked young, he looked a little bit older, he just pulled over, and she called dispatch and said, I don't know what happened, but I didn't like this. Nothing happened with that, but dispatch logged it. The dispatcher said, hey, this happened, this was the vehicle, and this was the date. Months later, I think about 6 to 8 months later, we found out that that was actually a sexual predator. And when we started investigating the cases and trying to solve who it was, we solved it because that person called in and said, I see this. Looks weird, don't know what it is. And she had actually given the plate to dispatch. It felt like it never went anywhere. Now that person, maybe she's in this room because that would be awesome, probably realized that doesn't think that went anywhere. But we were able to solve a case and keep a lot of people safe because of that one person. Calling in, saying what you see, and bringing it to our attention is hugely helpful, right? Talking amongst yourselves is also great, bringing it to the community. But if it makes it to us, just as Alex said, through dispatch usually, you never know. There's so many of our cases get solved from just that one person that called in, sometimes years before, and said, this doesn't feel right. And they'll call it in. Even if it is something, as Alex mentioned, that is legal activity, we still want to know because it creates trends and it gives us the opportunity to identify who is potential criminals down the road, right? We want to keep an eye on these people. We want to know who they are. We want to make sure that they're on our radar. So never feel like you're bothering us. A big portion of your tax dollars goes to law enforcement, so use it. You're paying for it. Use it. I always find that funny when people are like, I don't want to bother law enforcement. We're here to serve you. So make sure you're calling in at any time. And you never know where that piece of information is going to go later or how that's going to potentially keep somebody safe down the road.
Just wanted to add, about our youth. We talk a lot about what we can do with youth. All of our agencies, response agencies, not the district attorney, but the response agencies, we prioritize and make sure that we have staff available at our schools. Whether it's a middle school, I have the 2 high schools, Nevada Union and Bear River High School, where we have staff. I know our juvenile probation department has assigned juvenile probation officers to be at campuses. Earl Jameson definitely has a juvenile probation officer on site, and then any of the other schools that the juvenile probation can help at, so that our kids feel like there's someone that they can also report to at the school if they have a crime or an incident or bullying or any of those things happening at our schools. Is it perfect? No. Sometimes kids will go off on the social media and talk about something, and then we go to talk with them and they don't want to give us the information, or they'll give us different information. That happens whether it's the youth or not. Lots of times we take statements and things contradict, they get chaotic, and it's not necessarily because they're lying. It's just very difficult. Everybody has their own perspective on what happened, and sometimes it's different from someone else. That's why they say statements is not really one of the most accurate pieces of evidence, because we all come with our own experiences when we see something, and we can say this absolutely happened, and then someone sees it from a different angle and says it absolutely happened this way. Those are the things that our staff are trained on trying to get the totality of a circumstance for their investigations. Doesn't mean that people are lying, but I think it is important that we focus on our youth. and what our youth are learning and how they're being brought up in this community. I know Alex and I sit as board of directors for Bright Futures for Youth. It's very important for us both that we take our own personal time to stay connected with youth programs and how we can provide guidance for youth that are at risk.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to again highlight that, the say something or see something, say something thing, I mean, and to Chief Foss's point, that you never know where it's going to lead, but even if you're not an involved party, if you see something online, you see something racist online, I mean, that stuff needs to be documented, even if it's just a hate incident, and even if you call the DA's office knowing that no crime was committed, getting that documented is key. And going back to domestic violence, when we prosecute someone for domestic violence, their defense is usually, I didn't do it, or it was mutual combat. People that commit domestic violence, oftentimes it's a pattern, right? These are people that they do it over and over again. So when we prosecute someone for domestic violence, we don't just put the victim up there. We go and we put additional victims up there, people that have established a pattern of behavior. So if someone is getting accused of, for instance, a hate crime of any sort, right? They may say, hey, wasn't motivated or wasn't a substantial motivating factor. Well, we may start putting in online comments. We may show other things that gives insight into what their intent is and give the court, possibly a jury, insight into who this person is, and that can have real impacts in a criminal prosecution, even if it's something that is just, everyone looks at it, that's hateful speech, it's not appropriate. It can still be useful and it still should be documented, especially anywhere really, but in Nevada County, we have the resources, we have the capacity, and we're asking if you see something, say something, and it is very helpful to what we do up here.
Thank you. Thank you. A couple more questions. You've mentioned Bright Futures. There were a couple other resources that were mentioned in this conversation, just off of the top of your head, but everybody on the spot. Do you have any other community resources that you would want the community to be connected to, that you frequently are referring folks to, that would be important to note today?
I'd say definitely be involved with Color Me Human, which I know you are, right? Fantastic organization. I think any connection works. Any group, your neighborhood groups. We work a lot in the emergency evacuation field, living in the wildland fire locations, and anytime we feel connected, that's our community. So when we isolate, it's never a good thing. So looking at whether it's your church, whether it's a social group, your family groups, all of those things I think matter so that we stay connected.
One of the organizations our officers interface significantly with is CBV. Years ago, they were named DVSAC.
Community Beyond Violence.
Community Beyond Violence. And they have advocates, especially within the domestic violence realm, but I know they've worked in other spaces too, and they collaborate closely with the district attorney's office and their victim witness program. So if you don't have a relationship with them or want to learn more about what they do, that would be important. I think it's also key when our non-government organizations work together with each other, because where one organization may have a strength or a weakness, another one may have a strength, and so kind of collaborating amongst them is important. And then, as you mentioned, Bright Futures for Youth is just one youth-serving organization that I'm very passionate about, particularly because of the prevention work they do. The more prevention we can do up front, I think, is better, and so they're very focused on upstream prevention, and then also harm reduction, especially like in their transitional aged youth and homeless youth programs. So,
yeah, and there's specific volunteer opportunities in all of our offices, I'm sure, including the DA's office. We're in the final stages of standing up a family justice center. There's all kinds of volunteer opportunities there. But, I think more importantly, I'm biased towards Rotary because I'm a Rotarian, but also just get involved in service clubs, get involved in CASA. The Big Brothers and Big Sisters. All of these things. If you're seeing some sort of uptick, if there is an uptick in crime or violent crime or any of this stuff, we're not going to arrest our way, we're not going to prosecute our way out of it. It takes a community to really respond to these problematic symptoms that are going on. So that would be the opportunities that I would emphasize and recommend would just be get involved in some way, shape, or form in a Kiwanis Club or whatever it is to help out the community, because that does make a difference.
Yeah, I think everybody answered it well. I mean, we have a lot of nonprofits in Nevada County, thankfully, and the question's a little bit tough because if you ask about problems or organizations, no matter what you could think of, there's somebody that needs help somewhere in that field, right? So it's very difficult to say, well, is there a specific organization? We just have so many organizations, it's so vast. What I would say, to point everybody at the right direction, is start with us. You can call any one of us, and we're probably gonna have a little bit more of a connection to just know of the other resources, but there's never been a time in my career that I could think of where somebody came to me and said, hey, I needed help with this, and my response is never gonna be, well, good luck. That sounds like it's terrible. I'm gonna sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to work on? And we'll try to find those resources or that avenue for you. Always start with your cops. We don't just fight crime. That's just one small piece. That's probably one of the lesser things we actually do on the day-to-day. Our job is to serve the community. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. So start with us, call us, and if I had to say one organization to start with, it's us. It's law enforcement. Give us an opportunity to try to serve you and make your life better.
Thank you. And I would say also this is a good step in creating community and these informal networks. I know at the beginning of the hour, there was some conversation about informal relationships. And I think it's really important. There's a lot of, I'm involved in a number of these informal relationships and organizing groups that are popping up, and just really important to stay connected, to share information, and to continue to build those relationships both on an informal basis and to provide the informal and individual community and support to folks that need it. And so folks that are feeling isolated, folks that are feeling attacked and vulnerable, to be able to show up for folks. And that's what I want this space to hear also, is we need to show up for each other, and we need to continue to do that in both informal and formal ways. One final thing, and then we're going to move on. What would you want residents here and community members here, especially those who feel targeted, to know about how seriously you're taking these incidents that are being reported, and that online harassment and things like that?
Yeah, I just hope that you do see the commitment that we all have, and whether that's us building on creating trust in relationship, and recognizing that yeah, we have spent a lot of time and effort in our organizations to creating a better organization in service to our community members. And if, again, we're not perfect. If there is an issue, that you don't just go away with having a bad customer service, that you actually give us an opportunity to either correct it or look into it so that we can create safer spaces for our community members. I think that's important, that that we are here. We want to hear the life experience of what it feels like to be harassed or to feel like you're targeted, because we clearly don't want that to happen. I was raised in this community. Certain times in my life, I felt maybe a little bit targeted, but it some of that also comes with if you see something, say something. Let us respond. Let us work towards creating a safer place for you. Thank you.
Earlier, when you were just starting this whole morning off, you talked about not looking at things as isolated incidences, but the patterns and the issues in our community that are so troubling. And I think what I would say is that these issues that we're talking about this morning are deeply troubling to us. We feel this responsibility to try to keep our community safe. That's the mission of the calling of the work that we've chosen. But these particular types of incidences tear at the fabric of our communities in a way that is undiscerning to, it's just, when these types of crimes happen, they're happening based upon something that is not a motivating factor of all these other crimes we deal with. Those crimes are horrible too, but when somebody's attacked because of the way they look, or a choice they've made, or how they were created, it feels helpless for us to try to solve that problem because it's such a deeply human issue. And so what I would say is, these are the things that keep us up at night. Being here with you this morning, being able to share what we do is important, and I think that learning from folks in the community who can help educate us is what we're looking for. And so this is as valuable to us as I hope it is to you, and it's really important to us and the work that we're doing.
I wish people could be more. I wish people knew the conversations and stuff that took place behind these closed-door meetings with law enforcement partners in this community. So I just think if you were privy to that, you would see what I see, which is the sincerity, the motivation, not the perfection. And we make plenty of mistakes, but the mistakes we made, and when we're moving forward as a community to try to focus on what problems we can solve and what problem-solving tactics we're going to use in order to solve these problems, I would encourage you not to doubt the sincerity or the skill set or the motivation for the people up here, because it is that is something that is, from day one, since I've been in office in 2021, that is something that has jumped out. So the perfection's not there. We always need to do better. We constantly strive to do better, but the sincerity is there, and the dedication is there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this question I think is a really personal one, where it's terrible. It's terrible to. The community has hired me and our law enforcement for one overall goal: to make sure that you're safe. Right? That's our job. So every time something like this happens, it feels like a failure, and it should feel like a failure, and we take it very personal, and we should take it very personal. We're probably never going to get to the point where there's no crime. That would be awesome if we do. But when something like this happens, and I don't care for me personally if it's a shoplifting in town or something as heinous as what we've seen recently. Every one of them, I have that sense of, how dare you? How dare you think you can do this in my community? And I'm not the victim. So then I understand that as the victim, you're going to feel that tenfold. Our job is to keep you secure and safe, right? And not only secure and safe, to feel secure and safe. So when there's something where it's starting to happen where we see people are afraid, I feel like a failure. And I ask myself, how do I fix that? What do we need to do to make sure people are safe and feel safe? The good news is that I really do think we live in a great place where we're better off than we've probably ever been, and we're continuing down that road to make it better. But that doesn't change the fact of how we feel right now, right? So the answer would be, I take it very personal. I know everybody up here takes it very personal. And it makes me extremely angry. And I question, am I doing enough every time something like this happens? So we take it personal, and that's, hopefully you'll see that we're going to do everything we can to provide for everybody in our communities.
I don't know how many of you guys have been on the DOJ, California DOJ Open Justice Portal. You can go on there and look at trends. Those are macro trends across the state. This isn't meant to make our community feel any better, but the trends are not good as it relates to hate crime. They are better in the last few years, but over the last decade, they're up over 140% across California. The targeted groups have changed and ebbed and flowed over the years. It spiked incredibly heavily after 2020 through 2022. It's indicative of a larger issue around separation, divide, and people feeling empowered to be able to say things and do things that they shouldn't be doing. That's where I think the power comes in Nevada County. The fact that we're here this morning, the fact that we're having these conversations, the fact that you have law enforcement leaders, community leaders that care that much, we can make the change here. And that's not to discount at all anything that's happened or may happen in the future here, but know that it's being taken seriously. And if we can be an island of hope among those kind of statistics nationally and statewide, then that's our goal. And I think that that's a little takeaway that we can have, that our compass is pointed in the right direction in Nevada County.
Thank you. Thank you. If you can stay on stage for the community Q&A, I'm going to invite Councilmember Daniela Fernandez up to stage. We're going to do a little community leadership, opening up this conversation, and then we'll open it up to you all for Q&A. But please give a round of applause for all these folks, and thank you so much for being here. It's very appreciated. Daniela.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Daniela Fernandez. I am 5.5 years in as a council member in Nevada City. Got a couple more years, and then I'm done. I wrote some stuff here, but I'm having some thoughts, so she's going to go off script. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing what you've shared this morning. It occurred to me that we're talking a lot about how we're navigating things that have happened. And I'm wondering, how are we going to navigate what's happening, right? And I guess what I mean when I say that is, well, maybe I should just go back on script, actually. How many of you remember August 9th, 2020 and the protest that turned violent on Broad Street? Yeah, I remember. That experience stays with me really, really deeply over the years, and not just because I came out of there with a busted knee and a busted lip, but because of what that event revealed. It raised a deeper question, I think, that comes up in our community over and over again. Who belongs here? And as a lesbian and Latina who has chosen to build my life and serve this community, questions about who belongs here are not abstract to me. I remember that Sunday afternoon on Broad Street on August 9th, marching in solidarity for Black lives, and it became clear that simply showing up for justice was enough for some people to decide that we didn't belong. In fact, a lot of them were shouting things like, "Get back on your bus and go back to San Francisco," while we responded, "We live here." Some people responded, "I was born here." I responded, "I'm an elected official here." But that idea that some belong and others don't, that didn't start, obviously, on August 9th, and it didn't end on August 9th. This town has been shaped by questions of who gets to stay, of who gets pushed out, and whose presence is treated as a threat when they challenge the norms. And this isn't happening just locally, right? It's definitely happening nationally. We're living through a time, as Alex mentioned, of rising violence and deep political division. Fear is high, trust is low, and it becomes easier in a lot of places to see one another as enemies instead of neighbors. I want to be really clear about something. Bigotry should never be political. Racism is not political. Homophobia is not political. And harm against people for who they are is not a difference of opinion. And it's not a partisan issue, it's violence. And violence of any kind has no place in this community. I think what's been especially painful for me in all of this is young people committing violence towards other young people. And that should concern all of us. And honestly, I think it should be a wake-up call, because young people learn from the world around them. They absorb what's modeled. They absorb what gets laughed off and what goes unchallenged. As adults, whether we're parents, whether we're leaders, whether we're longtime members of this community, we have our own role to play in the culture we're creating. Community does create culture, And over time, what we accept and allow is who we become. Our rural town has changed a lot in recent years. It's changed politically, it's changed culturally, it's changed demographically, and for some, that change has been welcome and long overdue. And for others, it's felt destabilizing and perhaps threatening. And when that fear isn't acknowledged or addressed, it doesn't just sit quietly, it hardens into resentment. It fuels exclusion, and in the worst cases, it leads to violence. I think we need to seriously look at online radicalization. This is a problem not just across the nation, but in our community. And if all of this sounds heavy, it's because it is. This is really, really heavy stuff. I think it's both important to understand how we got here, and that's half the work. And then the other half is being clear about what we do now and what we do and who does what. So let's talk, I want to just talk briefly about roles. Law enforcement has a role, right? Investigations matter. Due process matters. Accountability matters. And that means letting law enforcement do their jobs thoroughly, professionally, and without interference. Two things can happen at once. We can both expect these incidences to be treated with the respect they deserve, and we can respect the process it takes to pursue justice. Government also has a role. A lot of people don't trust systems right now, including or especially government, and I get it. The question is, what do we do with that? I believe government works best alongside an informed and engaged public, one that pays attention, that asks hard questions, and stays involved. Democracy isn't just something that happens. It's something we practice together. It requires all of us. I know that trust isn't built by words or statements like this. It's built in how we show up, whether people feel heard, and especially how transparent we are, and especially people feeling heard when it's uncomfortable. And then also community has a role. As Lolo mentioned earlier, safety isn't created by institutions alone. It's shaped by everyday choices, by what we challenge and by what we refuse to normalize, and whether we stay engaged after the moment passes. What gives me hope is that y'all are here this morning. We are here across roles, across jurisdictions, perhaps even across partisan lines. But we're here with the shared understanding that violence, especially violence rooted in hate, has no place in our community. So my commitment as a council member and as a neighbor is to keep showing up honestly, is to work alongside others, and to stay accountable to the people who call this place home. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for caring, and thank you for staying in this with us. Please stick in it with us.
One more community leader, Heidi Hall, has some quick remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and I will keep it short. I don't have prepared remarks. I'm here to support this event. I want to thank Color Me Human for putting this conversation together along with Daniela and Hilary, and huge thanks to our law enforcement personnel who took the time out of their day today to be here and to collaborate and be collaborative, which they talked about, which is so important today. We are incredibly lucky in this county, despite all the things we all need to do better and we all want to see go better, to have this kind of a collaborative relationship among our law enforcement personnel. When I started our JEDI group for elected officials about 6 years ago, that was an attempt to do something similar. It's an unofficial group with elected officials from different jurisdictions. We talk informally We keep up on things like what's going on in the community with regard to hate incidents. And it's about building relationships so that when something happens, we have a place to talk. Hilary and Daniela and I have been meeting off and on all year this year on these issues. You, I think, should expect your elected officials to participate in that kind of a group. You should expect them to show up to things like this, and you should expect them to be willing to speak out on issues like this. So I'm grateful that I've had a collaborative group to work with, and again, replicating and adding on to what our law enforcement folks are doing. Just want to say one more thing. I think we've all sort of addressed this a little bit, is that what's happening in this community is not singular. It is happening across the country. It's important to be clear and factual about it. While hate and racism and homophobia is not political, it can become politicized. Right now, we're in a place in this country where hate is not only tolerated, it is encouraged. There is institutional targeting of vulnerable communities, and that stuff flows down to local places like ours. We are not immune to those hateful influences. I think it's really important that what we keep in mind is that what's happening elsewhere that's influencing us is coming from a bad place with bad intentions, and it's trying to pit us against each other. It's encouraging us to eat our own for bad intentions. Let's keep that in mind, because when we have hate crimes here, we're hating on ourselves. We are a well-run, good, close-knit community with collaborative officials trying to keep this hate at bay, but our law enforcement folks can't do it alone, elected officials can't do it alone. We need to acknowledge that this is part of what's happening in this country, and that means we, as you, as neighbors, as community members, need to do more to step up, need to speak out more strongly, and we really need to work together so that we are standing as a united front to protect our own and to make sure we stay connected. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, all of you.
All righty. Before we open the floor, I want to name a few community agreements. These aren't rules, they're just how we're agreeing to show up for each other today. I'll name them, and if you're good with these, could I get like a thumbs up from y'all? This is a question space, so we have obviously our law enforcement representatives here. We have local leaders in the room. So this is a question space. We agree to keep a respectful tone even when emotions are strong, because the emotions are strong, and they should be. We agree to avoid speculation, rumors, or naming individuals. And we understand that some questions, as has already been stated, some questions may not be answerable today due to legal or investigative limits. So these are agreements that help protect impacted individuals and community members here and keep the space from causing more harm. So if you're good with these agreements, can I get a thumbs up? Okay, excellent, thank you. Let's open the floor. We have Mayor Hilary Hodge in the back with a microphone. We have another mic. Viv's going, nope, okay, yep. We have another mic that's gonna be back there as well. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and they'll run to you immediately. And we have several on this side.
We might have to grab a mic from stage in order to help facilitate this.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna hold the mic just so I don't lose it.
Thank you, Hilary. Thank you, leaders and law enforcement professionals in this community, for sharing your collaboration, your intentions, and everything. When I heard Mr. Foss say that perfection has not happened, and when I hear you all say you want us to trust you, I would like to ask this question of the four of you up there, and that is this: are there any mistakes that you have collectively made in this community around the August 29th event that has had 6 witness videos observed, are there any mistakes that you can own that you've made to help us trust you more?
So again, from the DA's perspective, we're the ones that prosecute it, right? Law enforcement investigates it, and then after a comprehensive full investigation gets referred over to us for review of prosecution. I think that definitely falls into the category of an ongoing investigation. What I can say generally, and just speaking from the DA's office, you know, every investigation, every prosecution, we're going to see at the end of it what we could have done better. So I don't think that this is going to be any different from that, from the DA's perspective, as to where we could have been more proactive, or what we could have done sooner, or what phone calls we could have answered sooner. I mean, I think, in just trying to reflect in real time, I think we were responsive, especially to community members. I know I talked to, I can't even tell you how many people that called my direct line that weren't even related to it, right? But had similar concerns like that, and tried to walk them through the process and what an investigation looks like, what a professional investigation looks like. I think from our perspective, like many investigations, there's more that could have been done in a more efficient manner. But at the same time, this particular one, it's an ongoing investigation, and I think at the conclusion of it, it will be a thorough, comprehensive, professional investigation that we will be very transparent about at the right time.
I mean, I'm not speaking on the August 29th incident, because that one's not ours, and I don't have any involvement in that. But I will say, when you bring up investigations, I was an investigator for a long time. I can tell you right now, I made mistakes on every single investigation I did. I tried to learn from them. I tried to get through them. These are not easy, and believe it or not, people lie to you the entire time. And I think I'm dead. Does that mean to shut up?
No.
So where the trust comes, your question on that, I think that's really important. And I think Daniela said it great on her speech. It's not about us coming up here right now. I think that trust is developed over the entirety of our career. And unfortunately for law enforcement, so much of it is trust. Do you trust that the people that you put in these positions are going to do the best to their ability to solve the crime, to make our community as safe as possible? I hope to earn that trust over the entirety of my career. And I also can promise you I'm going to make mistakes. And that's just the nature of what's going to happen on these. Hindsight being 20/20 on every investigation, there's always things that you go, shoot, if I would have done that at this time, it would have gone better. And I'm not speaking to this incident in particular because I don't have any knowledge of it, but I can tell you for every case I've ever investigated, mistakes were made, and we do our best to get through them.
Yeah, I think on every case we look at, we do a debrief, and we say how, with the staff that were on scene. A lot of that, sometimes it's what the response is, what kind of resources did they have, could they have asked for more resources, all of those different things come into effect. At the same time, we have staff that are still learning, and we're trying to ensure that they're trained when they hit the door, but that they have oversight from supervision, oversight through management. But definitely, in Chief Foss's statement, I've looked at a lot of the cases that I've worked throughout my career, and I say, oh wow, I wish I would have done something different for a better outcome. But I can say 100% that the intention of every officer that was out there was good, that they were trying to do the right thing in ensuring the safety of whatever chaotic scene it was. Typically, in that initial response, it's who needs medical attention, and then moving on after that. But yeah, every single case we do, we debrief with our staff to ensure that we have lessons learned.
Christine?
All right, end user here. So there's a couple different questions in this, but what are you, Shannan Moon, doing? Because an experience of getting pulled over because I looked like I didn't belong from a sheriff's. What are you doing in Nevada City to dispel what happened during that Black Lives Matter? What training are you guys doing with your folks? Because I have to tell you, as a person of color, law enforcement is almost the last people that I'd be calling for help. So, what are you doing to help that?
Yeah, and again, all of those things don't just happen in a vacuum, right? I understand what someone feels. One of the things that was legislated in California is a RIPA, which is Racial Identity Profiling and Policing Act, which every single contact we make, we have to log. And we have to say, what did the officer believe the person's race was? What was the outcome of the contact, whether it was a vehicle stop or a consensual contact in the community, so that we can look at that data and see, do we have staff? We audit our body-worn cameras. The fact that we have body-worn cameras, I think, is a testament to ensuring that we have transparency in what our staff are doing out there when they're enforcing the law on a traffic stop. At the sheriff's office, we don't do a lot of traffic stops. The traffic jurisdiction in the county jurisdiction is the highway patrol, but we do use law enforcement vehicle stops for investigative purposes, for proactive policing to see if there's crime occurring. If you felt that way, I hope you called it in and can speak to a supervisor.
The supervisor was called out.
Yeah, and it was, yeah.
And then again, when you see police officers walking arm in arm with the people who perpetrated the violence here on Broad Street to their cars, how do you expect me to trust you? I'm asking, what training are you doing, and how many black officers do you actually have on staff?
What happened to the one you did have?
Hold on, please.
So we got to have one at a time.
Do not ask a question.
I think the first one was on the 2020 incident, correct, where the officers were walking someone back to their car?
Yes.
Okay.
August 9th?
Yeah.
So, I could answer that. I wasn't here during that time. There was an investigation by an outside party that was done on that incident. I have reviewed that. What we do have to understand, too, is during that time, we had 3 officers on staff for several hundred people that were in the street. There probably wasn't proper training for those officers at that time, but even with the proper training that they have attended now, 3 to several hundred is a very dangerous and difficult situation. The outside investigation was made public. It was released to the public. I know that there's been a lot of statements saying that they were with the one side or the other. That's not what the investigation showed. And what it did show, though, that there could have been some better response to that. And it goes back to what we've been talking about today. Are we going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Are we going to own them? I'm here owning it right now. We could have done better. We're better prepared now. If there's another protest, and there's 2 conflicting protests of several hundred people, I can tell you right now that keeps me up at night. Now, that's a very difficult situation to handle, and it will be very difficult for 2 or 3 officers to be able to safely handle. But we're going to do our absolute best to manage it and maintain it. The other thing that I would always ask is give me and us the opportunity to fail. As the sheriff had said earlier, if you feel like we're doing something that is inappropriate or wrong, please call in and report it. If it's serious by nature, almost always we're going to hire an independent review party to look at it. I'm going to have somebody come in and investigate my agency to make sure we're responding to it appropriately. We've done that more than once, so that we make sure that we can get as clear as an eye on this as possible. But I think your question again is, how do we establish trust? All I can do is sit here and tell you that I'm going to try to answer for everything that my agency does do. When we do make mistakes, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to make some mistakes, but we're always going to try to improve.
What's the training?
So we have police officer standard and training. We did respond to, we have sent, I think, most of my staff, if not all of my staff, to proper training. It was a 40-hour course on protests and how to manage them, what the laws are behind it. And protests in general are extremely difficult because we have a great thing in our nation called freedom of speech, and people are allowed to go out there and say and do a lot of things that they want, and we have to manage that very thin line of when they're going to be very upset and angry to then try to prevent it from going to violence. So we've done the best we can with the training that we can that's out there, and the gear and equipment and everything else. And we work together closely, I think, now, and we work together probably better than we did at that time.
And is there specific training around sort of profiling and racism that the police departments undergo?
Can you answer that one? There is. I don't remember the. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I mean, every 2 years, it's a required continuing education that is required. To be honest, I mean, it's state-driven. It's not the best, if you ask me. I mean, I've done it. It is helpful in the sense that it helps bring understanding to implicit bias, understanding explicit bias, knowing the protected classes and types of things to be aware of. I think that, frankly, when you ask the question about trust, that's a deeper thing that is going to take time, and especially with historical things that have happened, whether it's personal or more systemic, it's a culture issue. It's a culture issue within policing. It's a culture issue within our culture. And those are things that take time. And so I don't think any of us could stand up here and say, Christine, trust us tomorrow. Trust us a year from now. It's a process. We may get to the end of our respective lives, and your trust for policing won't be the same as somebody's next to you. But through relationship and slowly understanding the intention of those of us working towards it collectively, we can only hope that it can get better. Because without trust, I don't see a positive outcome. But I also understand that it takes work to achieve the trust, and it takes work on both parties and all parties.
Thank you. I know we have a couple questions in the back. Daniela, do you want to? And we have a microphone right there. Go for it, sir.
Hi, my name is Robert King. I lived in this area, I guess, for about 30 years, and then I moved away. Came back about 7 months ago. So I've had a lot of incidents as a black man living here. Things like my son being called a nigger in school. And then the principal telling me that he didn't want to tell me who that was because there might be some retribution by me on the parents of that child. And I think people learn that kind of thing at home. There are specific pockets or areas or families generally where children learn that. So and I imagine those are recurrent things. I also wonder why I think there should be people from the school district here. And other places where I'm a substitute now, as a healthcare professional for a long time, all teachers required to take a video on bullying behavior. They must take a test on that. Electronically, the district can check that. Did they score an 80% or not? Since I've subbed up here, I do see some bullying behavior, but I'll take that child outside of the classroom and say, we're going to have church right now, and ask them to respect themselves, as well as the other people in their class. So I don't know if that's currently a process here, because when I went through my training to be a substitute here, to get fingerprinted and all those other kind of things, I didn't have to take the training here, but I had to take it before I came here this year. So I'd like to see that possibly done in this area. You talked about the schools, but I don't know if that's happening in those schools. So I am surprised that they're not here. The other thing that I wonder about is that I don't see a Board of Supervisors person here. Oh, there is. Good. I'm glad to see that. One of the things that happened when I lived here before was I was told by people, I owned a lot of property at that point, I wanted to try to get a road to another portion of my property. But an association told me that they didn't want my kind of people as neighbors. But there was nothing legally, even though we took it to a Board of Supervisors, that was done about that. And now maybe there was like no legal help with that. On another occasion, someone was shooting over the top of our home from Mooney Flat Road. And we were told that it was hunting season. So they couldn't really do much about that. I took care of it myself, but there wasn't, I think, a response to that kind of problem. And I know you're short-staffed. I do understand that. It's a big county. But I think part of this is a community issue. I think we need to get people to understand. We have cell phones now. People can video things. We can take pictures. So I think that's really important that you get that word out. One of the things I did here was I went to Cornish Christmas this year, which was fun coming back to this community. After Cornish Christmas, my neighbors for a long time, again of about 30 years, and my wife, we came down to the Safeway shopping center. There were a group of kids there. One of them was beating the hell out of the other kids while a group stood around. Blood enough so that it got blood on their car, and the car was dented. I got out of the car and said, I won't say all the words that I said, but I stopped the fight. I'm an older adult. I can do that. I'm working with it in school. And luckily, one of the peace officers from Grass Valley came over. As it turned out, he goes, Mr. King. I said, yeah. He said, you were my Little League coach a long time ago. And what we did with those kids was we told them about bullying and training them and coming up. But I don't know that it's spreading out across the county at this point to the schools or with the Board of Supervisors so that they're a part of this too. I'd like to know if we're doing this in school and are they participating with you? And finally, I also worked in hospitals here, both in Grass Valley and Auburn, and I had my own corporation that did clinical home visits. Hospitals can help you out. We see people in the emergency room who come in bloodied, battered, where they need to be stitched up or whatever. They can be hurt. Is there a consistent relationship with the hospital so that doctors, nurses, people there can call you on the phone and say, this person came in, they were hurt in the community, they can give you some evidence? Other small questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So the connection to schools and medical facilities, if the PDs can respond to that question. I just want to respond very quickly about not having school board representation here at this meeting today. We'll absolutely do that at subsequent meetings. This was a specifically law enforcement update. But we do want to have, this is the first step and first meeting of the kind. And so we want to continue to do these on a regular basis where we bring in a broader range of representatives to speak on behalf of community and what they're doing. So I just wanted to make reference to that, but I want to give the mic over to respond to connections in schools.
I'll speak first to the medical piece because in the city of Grass Valley, Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital is located in the jurisdiction of the city, so we spend a lot of time with folks at the hospital. Dr. Scott Neely, the CEO of the hospital, sits on our Equity Inclusion Leadership Alliance group along with one of his staff who's in charge of mission integration. And I would say that the relationship between our staff at the police department and particularly the emergency department, but the rest of the hospital as well, is very robust. And what I tell my staff is they are one of our number one partners in the sense that we want to make sure they feel safe. So even if something's happening at the hospital that maybe wouldn't arise to the level of a crime, that we will be there to help them and maintain those relationships. So we have a strong relationship with the chief nursing officer, as well as the head of the emergency department, things like that. But it is really important because they see a lot of things going on in the community before we do. And I think it's important that we maintain that relationship.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Typically, my conversations with the hospital involve our incarcerated population when we're taking someone to the hospital, not necessarily just because the jurisdiction is Grass Valley's. So if someone presents at the emergency room, typically the Grass Valley Police Department would be their first contact. I also sit on the board of directors for our Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, so that I can also look at what relationships and what we can do better in our business in law enforcement, specifically the sheriff's office, with the entire medical field. Lots of folks present at Sierra Nevada, whether it's emergency care or any care at the hospital. And again, it's important for us that we have a hospital in our community, and I want to make sure that those partnerships are in place. At the school level, again, having school resource officers there, that is what we can control. The question about how you felt during a contact. I think we spend too much time training tactics in very specific pieces with our law enforcement officers, instead of what does your contact, how does that make that other person feel? Did you make them feel like you were listening? Did you understand the contact that you had created a different perspective for them outside of the very process of enforcing the law, which is complex to learn, and we try to do it as best as we can. Sometimes it takes years in order to really feel like you're comfortable in your shoes in law enforcement. But I think to the question of that training piece, it's not just a class you take, it's making sure that you understand the impact of your contact has on someone, and how does that person feel based off of that contact. That's something we're still learning on how to do better, I will say. And I've taken some notes so that we can make sure that we do better in the future.
Thank you. I know we have a question in the back, and we're going to have to wrap up because there is another event coming into the space. So unfortunately, we're going to wrap this up fairly quickly, but Crystal, please.
Sorry, I just want to apologize first off for coming to these meetings with ugly stories, but I have yet another one. But it is a compliment sandwich to say that the Sheriff's Department did a great job in this next experience. On New Year's Eve, my youngest son, who is 18, was at a party with his friends that he had been going to school with for quite a while. And another common denominator in this party was that the parents were there. And I'm seeing that the accountability in holding parents, I guess, liable for making sure that they're not giving kids alcohol in this county, as it's really attributing to some of their violence. But the parent was there. My son was attacked by one of the kids. He called 911, and the rest of the kids started calling him a snitch. A 14-year-old girl hit him over the head with a bottle. And the Sheriff's Department was amazing. You guys brought him home, took his whole statement of what happened. The young lady that hit him over the head with the bottle was in juvenile hall that night. Another kid was arrested. My son actually said he didn't want to press charges, crying, saying that he didn't have any friends, and he's really embarrassed of the situation. Definitely a different situation than my daughter's. Hers was more of a one-off. I have to say my son doesn't always make the best decisions with who he hangs out with, but that doesn't justify him getting hit in the face. I also just want to say thank you so much that gal had been apprehended. Where I'm confused, and I appreciate Jesse saying this is an ongoing investigation, but I recognize it's an ongoing investigation because I've made it one. Deputy Ross is who I'd really wanted to see here today, explaining again, having some accountability, because he was in fact the one that showed up and only saw 2 perpetrators in that video. And again, like you were stating, making us feel more comfortable, more confident coming forward. The other young man in that video from the August 29th attack, whether you guys had made attempts at getting his statement or not, he never felt comfortable until he was in my house just a couple weeks ago with a deputy. So, number one, thank you so much that the right thing happened a couple days ago, which I recognize also was one of the busiest days of the year for something to happen, and for you guys to be on it so quickly is amazing. I don't know that August 29th was one of the busiest days of the year, and I want to know what happened that night. You know, like Risa asked, whether you think something went wrong or it could have been better, the fact that there was a deputy there, the things that happened, and no one was arrested that night. I mean, I know that we've had our conversations. I think I'm just confused. I'm confused, and I'm just wanting to make sure that we are recognizing that there are deep-seated issues in our town. Parents giving alcohol to kids, the kids having this mentality that snitches get stitches. It's not right. We need to figure out a way to break through, to have conversations with them, to understand that it's okay to call the police when you're being beat the shit out of, even if it is your friends. No one should put hands on you. But where's this accountability? You know, where's the accountability for Ross? Where's the accountability for the parents? I didn't see the mom's name in the booking. You know, I definitely didn't see the parents the night of August 29th attack with 30 plus kids there. So I don't know. I want to make sure that people feel trusted in your establishment and making sure that they can report. But again, I called 19 times in September just trying to make sure that all the evidence was getting there appropriately. And instead, I felt like we've had multiple conversations about how the law works versus actually seeing it in action. So I'm not sure what my question is. I'm sorry if this was against what I was supposed to say.
Can I say something real
Kristen.
quick? I'm sorry. My spirit is just... My name is Callum Hancock. Many of y'all probably read the article that I put, the opinion piece in the paper. Some of you I do know. Some of you I don't. You had a black officer on your force, your team. He came in silently, he left silently. That was a sign of hope. My uncle was the first black officer in Carthage, Missouri. I was never so proud. Never so proud. He was a sign of hope for me, of change that was about to happen. How many of y'all know what a tapestry is? I'm not talking about a tapestry made by machines. I'm talking about a tapestry made by people. You chose to sit in each one of those chairs. You chose to take each position you took. That means you have to weave a tapestry. You got people here trying to weave a tapestry. This county has a nasty history of a nasty, very ugly tapestry. It's time to change it. I have never been more proud to see more people of color in this room, because I'm tired of going to things like this and we're too scared to come out, and I'm the only one opening up my black mouth, which people want to see more and hear more of it. Change your tapestry. And that means even going up against those writing that same nasty tapestry that look like you.
Thank you.
I feel like there is a blurred line where many white people are afraid to go up against another white person because you don't want that trouble. Create the trouble. We've been walking throughout history, many losing their lives, being hurt because they're tired of that same tapestry. Change it. You wanted that position, do something about it. Write the tapestry. Change it. Weave it. If you don't know how, honey, come on. Black folks have been writing the tapestry for a long time. We'll show you. And I'll walk with you. I tell my clients all the time, I won't do the work, but I'll walk with you because it's yours to do. And it is yours to do. If you want me to walk with you, like MLK, this is Malcolm. I'm ML. I'll walk with you. but I won't do the work for you because it isn't mine to do. I'm doing my work right here. You do the rest.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you. We are going to get kicked out of the space, so I apologize that we do have to end because we're just getting started, it seems. But I want to thank everyone again for being here. I want to end with this. People should not have to shrink, soften, disguise themselves, or perform acceptability to be safe here. They should not have to change how they look, who they love, how they speak, or how visible they are in order to avoid harm. Safety cannot be conditional on conformity. Belonging cannot be negotiated. So please be well in community together, and I hope to see you at our next one. As I mentioned, we'll keep updating on Color Me Human channels and in city leadership channels. Please reach out to any of us after this if you have additional questions and want to just chat and continue this conversation out in the rain. Happy to do so. But please stay informed, be together, be well, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you so much. Back on. Thank you. One last announcement as you're gathering your things and leaving. Creating Communities Beyond Bias and Color Me Human are hosting a community conversation remembering